has images, it has colors, it has sizing, it has it all.
Added the ability to unify that page and have everything as a similar style
It can
without
do
a lot
that.
of extra coding.
HTML can do that. HTML can give you the same look and feel.
Without the extra coding, though, without having to repeat that same code and all those same tags.
So it basically, CSS helps you eliminate the code redundancy, okay? What else HTML cannot do that CSS does or can do? Or that was the big thing why CSS was actually produced in the first place. HTML pages in the beginning were used for document sharing purpose. Then people started putting those out there in the form of websites or web pages. And then other businesses started catching up to HTML. So was desktop publishing industry. When they ran across HTML, they were like, what in the world is that? Because it doesn't follow any rules and regulations of desktop publishing. HTML doesn't have a unit. If I want to give something a heading, all I have to do H1, H2, H3, H4, H5, H6. But what is the size of H1? To a desktop publishing person, I need to work with units, because that's exactly how I do my desktop publishing for a newspaper, for a magazine, for any and all print forms. So to facilitate better standards to publish documents, we started introducing CSS step by step. As the market need changed, as the demand grew, we started making those necessary changes. Now, CSS, of course, in its original form, could not do what it can do now. But the idea is exactly the same. CSS, when it comes to a programmer, in how many different ways a programmer can write a CSS?
One. Just throwing the number out there.
So how many ways, let me rephrase, how many ways a programmer can assign a CSS to an HTML document, can attach it or link it or whatever?
Isn't there only two ways? Is it the external and then the internal?
Okay, you only got 33% of the answer.
Okay.
Let's see.
3 ways.
See, I gave the answer, man. Come on. When I said 33%, then it says three. Okay. What are they?
Isn't it internal, external, and embedded?
Okay, it's external, embedded. There's nothing called internal. It's closed. It's not internal though. Because embedded is also internal. So they came up with a different word instead of internal. Inline, very good. So we have inline, we have external, and we have in the middle embedded. Embedded goes right at the top. In which tag, which HTML tag do you write the embedded CSS?
In the head.
Style tag. Inline goes within each tag, and external has to be linked. Okay, so when you're writing inline, so you have an H1 as a tag, and I want to write an inline CSS. So what do? I put H1, and then what do I do before I start writing CSS?
Use the style tag.
Your answer is 50% correct. Only the first word is correct. The second word is not.
Right, when you're using style, and it's an identifier inside of that H1 tag.
Okay, I mean, we need a word that HTML uses. Style is what when you write an inline? Style is an attribute or property of the tag. Okay, it's not a tag. So style is now written as a property. Okay. So when you're writing your CSS properties, the CSS properties are written in a slightly different fashion. So CSS properties is a key value pair. That key value pair is called your rule. So that property and its value, how are they connected with each other?
With the equal sign.
No. In an embedded and external one, you use, what do you use between the property and its value? Colon. Okay. If you start flipping through your tutorial 2 pages, you'll be able to see that when you write a property, you write a property colon value. Okay. If you have multiple properties, how do you separate them? How do you separate multiple properties?
Multiple properties of the same,
Yeah, in this
applied
for
to
the
the same.
for the same rule, when you're writing multiple properties for the same tag or same rule, how do you separate those properties?
Be semicolon.
A semicolon. Okay. Now, if a property has more than one values, how are those values separated?
With a comma?
With a comma. Okay. Can you think of a property which has multi-value, which is a multi-valued property? And it will pick one of the many values, for example, whichever is first and applies, it just picks it.
Like a font family.
Font family. Okay. How do you write font family? You write FONTFAMILY, font family as one word together.
No, font dash family. Then.
Okay,
and
so
then your
what does that
font.
teaches you about CSS? If a property name is more than one words, all words will be hyphenated.
That's it.
Okay. How do I give property? Let's say if I have 3 paragraphs and one of the 3 paragraphs has a heading in it. Or how will I uniquely identify one paragraph from the others? I want to give something to that one paragraph out of the 3 paragraphs.
An ID?
You can give it an ID, correct. If I want 2 of the 3 paragraphs to have something,
You could make a class.
you can make a class. Very good. Okay. Classes are typically used if more than one tags are to share a property or properties. An ID is used for a single out of a group. Okay. Okay. Now let's say if I have a paragraph, I have like 2 paragraphs. One has heading 1 and one has heading 2. I want to give properties only to a heading 2, which is a child of a paragraph. How will I write that? I want to give properties only to a heading 2 that is a child of paragraph. You guys understand what we mean by child? When I say child.
Yeah,
okay.
isn't that with the little,
It is- Yeah,
bra-
it is, it is
greater
between the
than?
opening and closing paragraph tags, so it's considered to be a child of paragraph. So if there are multiple heading twos, but I only want that heading two, which is a child of a paragraph, to receive a CSS property, how would I write the rule?
Would, you would do like the. Never mind.
Would it be like the greater than less than symbols?
No, all I will do is I'll use paragraph space H2. That means any child of a paragraph, and then apply these properties. For a direct child only is where there I use a less than symbol. I only want a direct child. If I use a space, that means anywhere down the line of descendancy, the rule can apply. Okay. So I just wanted to touch base with some of the things you guys learned about in the previous tutorial. Okay. Is it possible for a property in CSS to be multi-value, that it's a combination of all those values that are applied?
Do you mean all at once?
Yeah,
Or-
yeah. All properties, all values. It's a multi-valued property that all values contribute at the same time.
But yeah. At least the one I have for my footer, I have the background color, font, text align, all that in one.
Yeah, what's the name of the property? One property with multiple values.
Yeah,
I'm asking for the property name, not the tag with multiple values.
let's see. You know me, check my notes.
Yeah.
All I have is style tag. I gotta see if there's something else I am missing.
It's in tutorial 2.
Tutorial 2.
It is. All the questions I've asked you are from tutorial 2. A property with multiple values and all values are applied at the same time. For example, margin. I want to have different margin for left and right and top and bottom, so I can give 4 values separated by space. So each value will contribute to one of the 4 sides. And does it go clockwise or counterclockwise? For margin and padding, do values go counterclockwise or clockwise?
Clockwise.
Clockwise. So it goes top, right, bottom, left. 4 values. Okay. If I only give 2 values to margin, what happens then? 2
It
values.
It equalizes or it does them both these sides and the tops.
Yeah, so the first value contributes to top and bottom, and the second one to right and left, right? And if I give 3 values, then
Values.
mhm,
Would that be right bottom Top, right, bottom?
It'll be top, right, left, bottom.
Bottom, okay.
Okay. And if I give one value, that means the same value for all sides. Correct. Okay. Bullets, ULs and OLs. What does CSS calls them?
Unordered and ordered lists.
No, that's what
Oh,
HTML
okay.
calls them.
Okay.
What does CSS calls these, ULs and OLs? It calls them list styles, right? Lists. So if I'm using a bullet points or numbers, it displays a bullet point or a number. If I want CSS to completely hide those bullets, what do I do? Which property do I use and what value do I use?
The list style type would be none.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You set your list style type to the value of none, and that will hide everything. Awesome. What is a pseudo class?
Isn't that where if you're using a list, you can name like your first item and then your end range items and your last item would be an example of a pseudo class.
Yep. So it's basically the classification of an element based on where it is right now in terms of its status or position or how is it used in the document. So that's basically the classification. And those are some of the examples.
The hover.
Oh, no. That's not pseudo class. Pseudo class
Oh.
would be first child, last child, nth of type, Oh,
No.
no, hold on a second. Yeah, that's a pseudo class. You're right. I'm getting confused with pseudo elements or pseudo properties. Okay, yeah, that will be a pseudo class to the hover, link, visited. Yeah, those are pseudo classes. You're right.
Active. That sounds so cool.
Yeah.
Press my notes are right.
Can you tell me what are the two categorizations of units in CSS? Two main categories of units in CSS.
Do you mean the units of measurement or?
Yeah, okay, unit of measurement. Let's put it that way. Okay,
The absolute and relative.
absolute and relative, correct. Okay, and absolute means that it doesn't matter where you are, their size is always fixed. So some of the relative units would then be based on the current context. So absolute unit would be like inches, centimeters, millimeters, things of that nature. And the relative units would be EM and EX. So if I say 2EM, that means change the font to twice the size of the letter M in the current font. So it's relative to the current font because each font is different. So when I say 12-point Arial, that's not the same as 12 point Times New Roman. Have you guys ever noticed that on your screen that when you use the same size but change the font size apparently goes larger or smaller?
No, never really noticed that, but now I will.
Go ahead, and if you have something like a Word document or something, open it up, type something in font size Arial, and give it a size, and leave the same number for the size and just change it to a different font. Do you guys get to see that?
Yep.
Okay.
We say there's
That's-
more vertical difference than horizontal, but yeah, definitely. different.
Sometimes it will be horizontal too. For example, if you go with one of those larger fonts, like, for example, if you go through your list, do you have a font in the W section that's like wide, something like that? Do you have a font like that?
Wide Latin.
Yeah, try that, and you will see that it actually stretches out each letter.
Oh yeah, big time.
Okay, so all of these fonts were added again because these are all based on desktop publishing standards. Otherwise, if well, we only had one font in the beginning, and that was a typewriter font. Everybody was just familiar with the typewriter font, and then over the period of time we added other fonts. So whenever we design a font actually is given a size. Let's say when you say, I want a font which is 12 points. 12 points is a unit of measurement that we use in desktop publishing. So all of your Word documents, PowerPoints, all of those are based on point system fonts size. So when you say I want a font of 12 points, that means a total 12 points, which has a leading area, a trailing area, the middle area. All of that together makes up the height of the font. So sometimes some fonts take less in the trailing and less in the leading. As a result, their size is smaller. Some take more. Similarly, they have different sizes for each letter as you spread them out. So sometimes they take up the whole space, sometimes they take part of the space. So that's why it's the same unit, but different font would take up different amount of space. That's why your English teachers would always tell you the name of the font besides the size for that very reason. Otherwise, somebody could use wide Latin and fill 8 pages, and the content is not more than 5-6 pages. Okay. Similarly, besides that, you can also use a relative unit of percent. So you can basically stretch the size by percents and things like that. But yeah, that's another thing to keep in mind. Okay. Now let me bring the Blackboard course shell and share that screen with you guys. So our focus for today is tutorial number 3. The tutorial number 3 talks about how you can go about setting the layout for an HTML page using CSS. So unlike tutorial number 2, where you just recently got started with CSS, now you will, your focus will be how to make your layout look better. So you'll be spending a lot of time with layouting the page. So you'll be learning about what are block elements and what are floating elements, how do you use grid-based layouts, how you can position items differently on the same page, like free floating items, all of that stuff you'll be looking at in this tutorial. Okay, so you have the chapter PowerPoint available, and we have an in-class file. This is the tutorial. These are the tutorial files. I want you to download this tutorial, unzip it, and then after that, I want everybody to give me a green check for me to know that you have successfully downloaded. Just download, don't open anything. Download and unzip, only those 2 things. Download the tutorial 3 in class files and unzip it. Okay, so we are waiting for Louis, Desmond, and Angelica. I don't know, Angelica, you have your internet now or no? So guys, what editor do you guys typically use in this class? Or it's your choice?
We've been using Notepad plus plus.
Mhm.
Okay. Anybody uses a different editor than Notepad++?
We also use FileZilla, but that's it. We don't need anything else.
Oh, no, FileZilla is for uploading.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm talking about for coding purpose. Okay, okay. And again, you know, just so that you know, you are not bound to using only, I mean, like some people use Microsoft Studio. Some people use other editors. It's perfect. Every editor has its own way of doing little things. But anyway, so I'll use Notepad++ too. That's fine. Now I wanted to show you the files that are available to you right here. So you have a bunch of pictures, as you can see, there are a lot of pictures. And there are some CSS files, which are the ones on my end are the ones with hashtags on them because of the Visual Studio, Microsoft Code, Visual Code. So that's why, you know, but anyway, these are my HTML files. So I have 3 HTML files and I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 CSS files. Wow, right? A lot of stuff. Now, when I'm adding CSS to HTML, like an external, can I only have one CSS or can I link multiple CSS?
Multiple.
Multiple, okay. Does the sequence matter or it doesn't matter? However, I can add them in any sequence. Tricky question, right?
I think they can be added in any sequence, but the last thing that's read would take precedence if it overwrites a previous sentence.
Mhm.
So you can add them in any sequence, but to get the desired results, you must add them in a certain sequence. And the sequence that you should follow is the sequence in which you go from the one that creates the basic foundation to more specific implementation. It's because each CSS will override the previous CSS work if you are applying the same set of properties. So in this, let's say in the first CSS, you said the whole document's color is red. In the next CSS, you said it's blue. In the third one, you said green. So the document's color will be green. So in all these CSS that you see in this folder, let me go to extra large, right? All of these guys, which CSS do you think should be right at the top of all your HTML, each of your HTML page?
Did you say which of the CSS should be at the top?
Yep.
Either home or styles 1, probably.
No.
This is just grids because it's already up there.
Reset. You see the name PC_reset?
Do
That should be the
not-
first
oh,
one.
okay.
You see that?
Yeah, I do now.
Okay. Now, this CSS, the job is to override all the basic properties HTML gives to the page, because HTML has its own default values as well. So the whole idea of this reset CSS would be to override the basic HTML properties to whatever the author wants. So if you were to open this in your Notepad++, Let's go to the downloads. Let's go to tutorial and let's open the reset. Okay. Just so that you know, this is the Visual Studio Code environment. Anyway. So what do you see when you open this guy?
Structural and typographic styles.
And nothing is filled out. Everything is blank, right? There
Mhm.
are no properties that are set. Everything is just like basic,
Right, it's like a template.
like a template. Exactly, exactly. Like a template. Okay. Okay, now let's double click on PC Home and open it in a web browser. This is how the PC Home looks like in a web browser. Not very pretty, but it has a lot of stuff added to it. So what we'll do here is we will open the PC Home inside Notepad++, just so that you can see what CSS files it is linked with. As you can see at the top, that it is linked with Reset first, then Styles1, and then Home. It is linked with 3 different CSS. Styles1 does a few things, Home does a few things, a few more things, and the combination of that will make this guy work. Now, let's open the other 2 CSS files as well, the Styles1 and the Home. So Styles1 and the Home. In Home, you don't see anything except for the tags in which we will write the properties. You see the basic structure. How is Home different from Reset? In Reset, you see a collection of tags which are structural and you will assign a property to them. And you see a collection of typographic tags and you will assign properties to them. Those are the only 2 areas in which we'll apply the properties. On the contrary, in the home.css, we are now getting to the details of the tags. That I want the body to be like this. I want the image in the header to be like this. I want the navigation to be like this. And I want the section, which is identified by an ID called left column, to be like this. I want the right column to be like this. I want the image in the right column to be like this. And I want the footer to be like this. So you are going into those nitty-gritty details of each of the areas. Now, having said that, I want you to revisit that home.html page and start reading through the structure of the page so that you can understand what structure it has. It has a header. The header has 2 children, image and navigation. Header has a sibling called section. section is identified as left column. There is another section that's called the right column. Right column has an image and also has a navigation within it. Similarly, we have another sibling called footer, which has 1, 2, 3, 4 different, 1, 2, 3 navigations and another section. That's basically the structure of this page. So overall, the body has 4 children: header, section, and footer. The middle 2 sections are identified as left column and right column. Okay. Now, in this page, I want you to now go to styles1.css. That's where you will see some properties already written for you. You have some properties in HTML section. You have some properties in the body section. You have some properties in the horizontal navigation. And a lot of these properties, the reason we left them there, and we are not making you write those, which are part of this tutorial, because you already learned about this stuff in tutorial 2. So I want you to go over these properties and see if you have any questions about any of these properties in styles1.css.
I have a question about the third line. What's font face? I don't remember that at all.
Well, what happens is that you do not have access to all the fonts on every machine. So if there is a specialized font that you want the user to first download to their local computer and then use it, you upload those files over to the server. And then right at the beginning, you give this rule called, I want you to download the font face where the name of the font is Champagne. So all over this document, wherever the Champagne font is used, I want you to either, if your system supports a WOFF format, pick that, or pick the TTF format, which is mostly used by Windows. That's why if you're looking inside the folder, you will see the files. See this CAC Champagne? This is a TTF file, and this is the WOFF file.
Okay.
Okay. So if you have any proprietary fonts and you think the user may not have it on their system, then that's how you do it.
All right.
Anybody else has any questions? Why do you list so many fonts in font family? What's the rationale behind it?
Isn't that just to be able to accept the different types of fonts that it can handle?
Well, it can only take one of the 4 fonts. So what exactly are you trying to tell the system?
Is it a list of like fonts to go through depending on what the user has?
Exactly. So you start out with Verdana. If it doesn't has Verdana, go with Geneva. If it doesn't has Geneva, go to Arial. If it doesn't has Arial, sans serif. So is there a font called sans serif?
No.
No,
Yeah.
it's basically a category, a font family. So Arial is one of the fonts, or Tahoma is one of the fonts, or Geneva or Verdana are all fonts from sans serif family. Times New Roman is from a serif family, and Comic is from cursive family. So there are different families to which different fonts fall under. Okay. What is the highest value for RGB?
255.
255. And in hexadecimal? Will be the highest value in hexadecimal.
FF.
FF. Yep. Exactly. Okay. And what does this means? The line that I have just selected on my screen. Line 89.
It activates when you hover on the vertical notification.
So what is vertical navigation?
That's one of. Oh, is that the scroll bar or no? No,
Okay, go
that's
back to PC home, right? And then in the PC home, you need to go down to the footer. In footer, you will see that there are several navs which are classified as vertical navigation. So it's the name of a class. Visually, I could say that because I used a period between nav and vertical navigation. It has to be a class.
Mhm.
If we use hashtag, it's an ID. Okay.
Mhm.
So navigation has a child called anchor. So if you go back, navigation has a child called anchor, not a direct child, but maybe a grandchild, but it's a child or great grandchild. It's a child. So in navigation has a child called anchor, and I want to set its link and visited pseudo classes or hover pseudo class or active pseudo class. Okay, so that's what I'm. And this is where I'm looking for a section which is identified by an ID called contact info. And within such section, I'm looking for a paragraph. So that will take me down to this guy, section identified as contact info, and all the paragraphs within the section will have these 2 properties applied to them. Okay. Now I want you to go back to your HTML page. Okay. How do you comment in HTML?
the the less than exclamation point dash dash.
And then you close out with dash dash
Mhm.
and a less a greater than, okay, a less than sign.
Yeah, I got
Sorry, a
that.
greater than sign. Okay, so we'll do the same thing here. Right here, we'll create a blank line, and we will comment all the links, just the links, all of them. So only the links should be in green color. Done. Save the changes and then refresh the page. That's pure HTML, no CSS, nothing. That's basically how the page looks like without any CSS. I know we have very little CSS, but whatever it is. Okay. Now we will uncomment, only put the last two links in the comments and leave the reset outside of the comments. I know reset has nothing in it right now, and that's exactly what we'll be working with. So right now, with reset having nothing, with that change, nothing will change. So now let's start building the reset. In the reset, I'm going to use a display property set to block. What does that mean? That means all of these tags, if they come, they will occupy a line of their own. Nobody can share the line with them. They're like a block instruction. That's a display property. Okay. When you do that, you may see a slight change, but not too much change. But you got to remember, with this property not in place, you had your bullets, you had, things were slightly different, very, very minor difference. And after you make everything a block, and that's what you get to see, okay? Okay, now let me move the block here in the structural one. And you will see that you get your bullet points back because not all the items are block. I only want these items to be treated as a block. So anywhere any of these tags will come, they will be treated as a paragraph, a line of their own. So what do I want to do with these guys, with the typographic? Well, I want them to have 100% font size. I want them to have no margin. No padding. And notice how the page looks like. No margin, no padding. Everything is aligned to the left. Okay, everybody got that? Okay. We can add one more property here called box sizing. The idea behind adding a box sizing is that you want the border of the box and the padding, which is the inside area of the box between the text and the border. That area is called padding. You want both of that to also be included in the width and the height of the box. So you want it to be a border box. Okay, so that way the width and the height are included. The padding and the border are also included in the size of the box. Okay, apparently it will make no difference because we don't have anything going on yet. When it comes to a UL, I want my list, I want my list style to be set to none. And if there are any images used, I also want them to be set to none. For all my anchor tags, I want them to be plain. I don't want them to have any of those text decorations. And each of my line in my entire body of the HTML page should have a line height of 1. Some basic properties. And I'll refresh it. You'll see very minor changes. Again, we are resetting the page, not anything, adding anything else to it, just simply resetting it. Okay. Now let's go to the home.html and we will now uncomment the styles and we will only leave the home as a commented sheet. And let's refresh the output. And as you refresh the output, you will see all of those things that you were seeing before, with one minor difference over here. And that is we now have the page being reset. That's where everything is touching the base on the left-hand side, and the image is touching the top left corner. And all other CSS styling properties that are written in styles 1 are applied, the background and everything else. But of course, we need to improve this. So the improvement will happen here in the PC home. So let's uncomment PC home. And now let's start building the PC home. So I'm going to PC home CSS. Let me set the max width and the minimum width. And the width will be 95% of whatever it is taking. So 95% of 960 pixels will be what it will occupy. So you save the changes with these 3 properties in place. If you start shrinking it, it will not go past 640. It'll rather give you a scroll bar to scroll. So if I refresh now, all you see is the whole page is 960 pixels wide, except for this picture that's overlapping going outside because it's larger than 960 pixels. The rest of the page is within 960 pixels. And you see this other background, you see 2 background colors. And why are you seeing 2 background colors? Because of the style. The style gave different background colors to HTML and the body. So the background color that you see over here, the dark brown color, that is the body color. And whatever you see outside, that's the HTML color. So if you want to give different colors to your page and whatever area is left over, you can give different background colors to HTML and body tags. And that's how it will behave. How can I center align the whole page?
If we can back up for just a minute, when you had set that minimum width at 640, the leading picture was wider than that 640, but that didn't seem to get clipped off. How do you handle that?
Oh, we will fix that. We will, because we have not yet forced the picture to align with the content area. But other than this main thing, which is inside, what you may call it, where is that picture? Here. Which is inside the header. This
All right.
picture, yeah, this picture, this is the guy that's going, it's a much larger picture. That's why it's going a little bit over.
Sure, and we affected the body, not the header.
Yeah, so it is basically applying to everything except for the picture, because picture has a mind of its own until it resets. So we got to apply some CSS properties in the home to make the picture get contained within the HTML's area. We're not there yet. So how can we center align the page?
Could you use a margin that's set with auto?
Margin set with auto. We'll leave the same amount of space on the left as well as right. Okay. So margin auto. So that center aligns the page. Cool. Okay. Okay. Now, why in the world is the image not following the sizing? That was the question. I think that, Dave, that was your question, right?
Yes.
Okay. If you go to reset.css, did we apply the display block on the image?
No.
No. So that's why it is not a blocked entity. It's not coming in the flow. That's one thing we will be setting here on line number 28. First of all, we're saying, by the way, you know what? You will be a block instruction. And since you are a block instruction, you can only take 100% of your container size. So who's the container? Who's the container of the image? The body. Okay. Let's fix that. How many list items do I have in horizontal navigation? How many list items do I have in the horizontal navigation?
5.
5 of them. If they all were to equally get the same amount of space, what percentage should each one of them have?
20%.
20%. So I can go down to line 33 and I can say that your width is 20%. Okay. Okay, no, I have to set some of the other properties too to make it work. Right now, only one thing has been done. There are other things that need to be fixed. So you are to go 20% in width. And you have to be a display block. You got to block out everything because otherwise it doesn't behave. Now comes another problem. When you do that, if you refresh after you do display block, you see that it doesn't do anything because what display block does, it makes the item occupy the whole line. What you need to tell it, you know what? You do not have enough content to take up the whole line. You take up whatever space is given to you. In the remaining space, let the next person come. So make next person float to your right by you floating to the left. Okay. Got it? All in one line after that change? Okay. Next, we need to go down to the anchor tag, which is a child of list item. So right now we are working with this guy, right? So we are now transitioning to this guy, which has all the text in it. So we're saying, okay, anchor tag, I want you to also be a display block. And other than that, I want you to also have a text align center because I do not want you to be left aligned in the box because each box will be 20% of the width. See, now it looks like one big block, but if you hover over, it just changes the colors. Everybody got that?
Can you take a look at mine?
Yes.
I've been following it, but just at the point when you aligned everything to the center, it stopped.
Okay.
Kind
Look
of.
at it.
So I have the website just looks like this right now.
Oh,
Still, it's got all the other features other than the fact that it's on the left still, I think.
okay. Let's have a look at it.
Do you want to look at the HTML or the
No, we'll just have a
CS?
look at this one first. Max width, min width. Margin is auto, images, display block 100%, 20%. List item is display block. Anchor is also display block. And text align is center. Okay, is that a colon after display after text align?
text align?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, so
Yeah,
that's supposed to be there.
that is a colon, right? Okay.
Yeah, it's colon.
Okay, cool.
The float
Oh.
left is missing.
Was it there?
Float left.
You're missing float left on line number after
41.
line 40. Go to the end of line 40 and hit enter.
Oh, okay.
And that's where you
Float.
are. You have to type float
Is it
colon left.
colon
No,
left? Oh,
colon
yeah,
left.
yeah.
So that all the items start floating to the left of, I mean, like to the right of the item. Okay, refresh.
I'm not.
Oh,
What was it? I did save it.
he did save it. Okay,
I'm not.
I think
open it
you're
again, though.
missing something else. Let me.
Oh, that was on the CSS.
Your file is not saved. Your HTML file, you made
Is
any
not?
changes to it?
Did I?
Save the changes. Yep, now refresh.
There we go.
Okay, cool. I think
Right.
your HTML file, after you remove the comments from the CSS,
Maybe I just
yeah,
didn't
you did
save it
not
up.
save it. Yeah,
I thought it would save it all. All right, thank you.
no problem. Okay. Now in the left column, which is the column which holds my first section, which has this paragraph, right? This whole paragraph, this guy here. I want my left column to, first of all, clear any floating that's going on from the previous section. So it'll just clear that float first. So that it doesn't become part of that float. Then it says, I want to start my own float. If I occupy less than 100%, then whoever is the next item after me should come up in the remaining space. So then after that it says, I want to leave a padding of 1.5 EM, and I only want to take 33% of the 960 pixels. Okay, see, it is in the 33%, which is this section. And the rest of the page is just going around it. Okay. Now let's work on the right column. It will say that I will float, the right column will also float left, and I will take the remaining width. What's the remaining width after 33% is gone out of 100%?
67.
67%. Awesome. And okay, notice it is not coming anywhere under that 33% area anymore, because it is now floating completely on the other side because of that float left, and it knows it can only float within the 67%. Now we have a bunch of images that are part of that right column. So if I go back to my home page, I have chocolates picture, fudges, toffees, and truffles. 4 sets of pictures. Okay. Each picture has a text, and each picture is inside an anchor tag. So that's why here it says that only the images is what I'm concentrating on right now. And I want all my images to be block with a width of 100%. Is that 100% of the body?
No, it's 100% of the anchor.
It is the 100% of the 67%. No, it's 100% of the anchor, right? That's where it's placed as a child. So if I go back to my home guy, okay, so the pattern is I want the image, which is a child of right column. So the image that is a child of right column, that image will be 100% of whatever is available within the list item. Okay. Then we need to come to the individual list item. And we can say, you know what, list item? There are 4 pictures. So we will give you 25% for each list item. See? All 4 of them are aligned, as each one of them get 25%. Of that 67%. Because there were 4 of them, that's why we gave each one of them 25%. Now we need to work with this footer area at the bottom. So footer, your background color will be 71, 52, 29. And you will clear any floating that was going on before you. So you'll be clear of all the floating. We will come back to that after section in a short while. But let's first look into the navigation. It has its own navigation, a vertical navigation, which we will say that you will float left and you will each take 25%. So they each take 25%. Okay. If I want to give each one of them, let's say 22% instead of 25%, oops. See, they each have 22%, and the location and hours is all the remaining space. What's left? How much space is left for location and hours?
12 extra percent.
No, it's see, there are 3
Oh,
columns.
you mean the whole? Yeah.
Yeah. So they're 22, 22, 22. That's 66.
34.
34%. Okay, 34%. And we will make you also float left. Okay. And here we go. However, we now run into another problem. And that problem is the moment we make everything align and take up the 100%, we lose the background color. And that's why I said we will talk about that after section. This is a special topic in the book. And I want to get to that page first. Okay. Oh, we have, oh, Bart has a question. Yes, Bart. Oh, okay.
Yeah, sorry. I'm trying to. I think I got everything, but it was just going. It kind of like almost got like a heart attack with my internet. I was going
Oh,
in and out constantly.
but do you have everything?
I think so. For some reason, my footer is all in bold. I don't know why it's all in bold and black, but everything else I think I got it. I was just kind of trying to keep up, and I just
Yeah,
wanted
check the properties of the footer to make sure that you have everything in the right place. I purposely did not write anything in the after yet. So make sure.
because I got everything in the footer, background color and all, but it's not like color coded, so it's not gray. It's everything's black in it. I don't know if that matters at all, but
Well, this is how it should be before we can fix it. So let me see what you have. How about that?
okay.
Okay, can I see your output real quick?
Oh, my output? Yes.
Yeah.
Sorry, my
He has
internet
no
died.
semicolon on his RGB colors.
Oh, thank you.
Oh, yes.
Thank you.
Okay, cool. Thank you. Now,
Let's see here. Save, view.
don't view this. This is your CSS. Go to your HTML page. Yeah, view that. Awesome. Okay, scroll down. Oops, there are a few things that you're missing. Keep scrolling down though. Okay, can you go back to your CSS? Okay. Oh, on line 78, you need a colon after the word with colon.
Okay.
Okay, save the changes and refresh the output. Here we go. Okay, cool. You're fine. Okay. Your book. Page number. $195. That would be no, that's before that. Good. Yes, this area, which is HTML page 195 in the jump to section. Working with a container collapse. This section, which is right above section 3.2 in the tutorial. Right before review sessions 3.1 quick check. I want you to first read this page. Only up till above the reference, keeping a container from collapsing up till that point.
Just to be on the safe side, I crashed again. But I got everything that I needed, right?
Yeah. You have everything. I'm just asking everybody to read page 195 in the ebook.
Okay.
Which is working with container collapse. So we are facing the same problem in our footer as well. That since everything is occupying the container, as a result, we have no space left over. So the browser is thinking that it's the same stuff, that every element in a container is floated. There's no content left. So as far as the browser is concerned, the container is empty and thus has no height and no background to color. To overcome this problem, you have to add an empty content, which takes up 0 space, but add some content to the container all the way towards the end so that it knows, oh, there is something after me, so I am not empty. It's just a way around to fool the container. And how do you do that? You say, after the container, clear all kinds of floats, left and right. So for that, we use the word both. Create an empty content, means don't put any content, but if you say content equals to 2 double quotes with nothing in them, it still is a content, but is empty content. And then say, treat it like a table. Okay. So here we may have something very similar in our example. We'll say, we would like to clear everything. So right after the container called footer, we want to generate a content, which will be nothing, but this will be treated like a table. So now it says, oh, okay. So it just starts acting normal. Okay. Is everybody done with this example? This page looks like the way I have it, because when everybody's done, then I'll move on to our next page. Courtney, you got it? Okay. Awesome. Daniel and Jake?
Yeah, I got it.
Okay, cool. Awesome. Okay, I will clear everybody's feedback. And we will now move on to our next page. So next, we are done with home, right? So let's open about page. PC about. And PC about, as you can see, also use reset, but it has 2 other links. One is to the PC grids. The other one is to the PC styles. We have already seen reset, so we don't need to go back to the reset. And we already know what it is like. We already completed that. So let's now open only the grids and the styles too. So PC grids and the styles too. Styles 2 is complete, just like styles 1 was completed. Styles 2 is also complete. So before I start diving into the styles 2, I want you to start studying the about page by first running it. That's how the about page looks like. The grids is empty, okay? But this is how the about, pretty much a lot of this is done for you, except for those little things we want you to learn that are more in relation with tutorial number 3. So studying the page means that you will see that the body has a child called header, and the header has a picture and a navigation, which is exactly the same as we had it in the home page. Then header has a sibling called division. Then another sibling called division. So, and each sibling is called row. And then as I scroll down, I have another sibling division and another sibling division. So I have lots of divisions. Row, column 1, 3, row, and row. So if I go to styles, I will see that there's an HTML background color, there's a body background color. I have the image that runs across the page, which is the Panacea chocolates. I have my navigation, okay, horizontal, all of that stuff, the links, my headings. Now that's where the heading styles come in. All these headings you see, we are styling them. And then we are setting the paragraphs margins. So you can see that it leaves 1 EM on both sides, or I should say all sides. Font size of 0.9 EM, so 90% of the current font size. The image is 100%. That's why this image that you see of person putting these chocolate cones, that's 100%. It's block. A side, background color is this, padding, margin. What is a side? Let's go down in the list. A side. A side is inside a division which has FAQs, frequently asked questions. Now this is a side. This whole section is a side. Okay, so what are the properties for a side? It has a background color which is slightly different. It has a padding at the bottom. It has a margin on the left. See, it has a left margin only. It doesn't have any right margin. That's why you see a little bit of a space on the left. It has heading, which is FAQ, center align. Then all of these items that you see are DL, which are the data lists. The size is 0.9. The data list has a child called DT, which is black color. So you see, what do you do? Do you do wedding? How long do your chocolates last? All of those are black colors, cursive. And anything after that, which is a data definition, that is cursive, but a different color. And with some margins. And after that, the footer at the bottom where it says Panacea chocolates, copyright 2017, all right reserved. These are the properties for that. Is everybody okay with all these properties, and how can you relate to how the output is coming?
What is the DL and DT, or DL, DT, and DD?
Those are the different ways of creating your lists. So what DD does, it creates a definition, and DT is the term of the definition. I'm trying to see, it is somewhere in your chapter 1 or tutorial 1. I'm just trying to get to it so that, okay, it's page number 54 of your ebook. Okay, page 54. Description lists. Okay, so description list creates a list. It's called a DL. And each of the items that you want to display as the term is in the DT, and the description of that term is in DD. So whatever you write in DD is automatically indented 1 tab space over. So for example, here, you can see that whatever is written in DT is slightly to the left of whatever is written in DD, which is 1 tab space over. You see that? So that's what the DD and DT does. It's just another type of a list which allows you to write the definitions and the terms. So the terms are written in DT and the definitions are written in DD, and all the definitions are are just 1 tab space over. They're indented 1 tab space over.
Okay.
Okay, does that answer your question?
Yep.
Okay, cool. Okay. Any other question about this guy? Okay. Now let's go to the grids. The grids allows us to set up the grids. And what the grid does, it allows you to set up your page in different grid formats. So that would be page 203 of your books. I don't know why when I change. Oh, it does dumps. Okay. That's page 202, which talks about the grids. So grids are a classic layout technique that has been used in publishing for a very long time. Grids are typically like this, where it allows you to break down your pages into rows and columns, where each square represents an item in a grid. And then there's a space between the grids. So that's pretty much what a grid layout works as. The page designer arranges the page elements within the chosen grid. So this figure 330 shows one possible layout comprised of a main header element, 3 main sections, the lavender, the light green, and the blue, as well as the navigation bar and a footer. Some sections like dark green and blue areas are further divided into smaller subsections. Grids add order to the presentation. A consistent logical design is what you are striving for, and it speeds up the development. One of the grids is called the fixed grid, where the widths of the columns and margins are specified in pixels, and everything is in a fixed position. So many fixed grid layouts are based on a page width of 960 pixels, because most desktop screens widths are 1024 pixels, and 960 pixel width leaves room for browser scroll bars and other features. The problem, of course, with a fixed grid layout is that it does not account for other screen sizes. So to counter that, CSS developers came up with the fluid grid, in which column widths are expressed in percents rather than pixels. Is often used to provide more support across different devices, because when you are dividing your group in percents, that means if you go for a wider screen, it now goes by the percent of that screen. So as opposed to fixing yourself in pixels, you fixate yourself in percents. Does that make sense? Okay. Now there are some CSS frameworks, a framework which is a software package that provides a set of library files for you to work with. And some of them are like Bootstrap or YAML, 960 grid system, and so on and so forth. These are some of the CSS frameworks that does some of the gridding for you. But of course, we can set up our own grid in this example. And that's what we'll be concentrating on in this CSS file, the grids. First of all, in the grid row styles, we want all divisions which are recognized by the row class to clear all kinds of floating. No floating, okay? Then the division row, after each one of the division row, remember, this is done because to avoid the situation where when all areas are filled and the container thinks that it is empty, we're doing the same stuff here. Now let's come to the actual grid columns. and the outline. Those are the two things we'll be working with. How about we work with our divisions? Okay. Hold on a second. Let me make a note of all these different divisions I have. Okay. So I have column 2, 3. Hold on a second. Let me write it down somewhere. Okay. So I have column 2, 3 as one of the rows child. I have column 1, 2. Okay. And I have column 1, 3. Okay. And I have, okay, so those are my 3 choices. Okay. Okay, so those are the 3 columns. Let me put this on the side. So I have those 1, 2, and 2, 3, and 1, 3. Okay, cool. So I'll know exactly. Okay, so I do not have 1, 1. I have column 1, 2. Column 1, 2. I want is width. Oops. Should be 50%. And then I have column 1, 3. I want it to be 33.33%. And the column 2, 3. I want it to be 66.67%, which is a remaining from 1, 3. And let's see. Here we have. Okay. It's only a step 1. And I want all of my divisions to have an outline of 1 pixel solid red. And this is where you can see how each one of them actually have an outline. This is usually it's done in testing. We don't do it past testing. So you can see that where the outlines are getting drawn. We will comment this out once we're done with 1 more line of code we have to write. Everybody got this far?
Mhm.
One of the cool things in CSS is that it can actually do properties on name patterns. For example, what is common between these 3 names? Call 1-2, 1-3, 2-3. What is common in all these 3 names?
COL.
And a hyphen.
Yeah.
Right? Okay. So I can literally say to the CSS, I want you to look for a class that starts with is a caret, starts with colon and a hyphen, another square bracket. And I want you to apply this property to only those classes which match the criteria. And the property is float left. And here you go. Just 1 line made such a drastic difference. Right? The whole look and feel of the page has changed because now all those columns are floating to the left. Close this. I do not need this guy anymore. Any questions so far, guys?
Hold on, I'm trying to see what's wrong. I just want to take a look at your code for a sec. So
Okay, yeah, sure. That's fine.
My FAQs are still hanging out down on the bottom of the page.
Okay, did you check everything here? All the columns, 1, 2, 1, 3, 2, 3. And the percents?
Yeah, it looks good.
If not, if everything looks similar, then I can stop sharing and I can let you share. No? Still?
Yeah, I'll share. I found a missing dash, but that didn't fix it either.
Okay, we'll let you share. So you have a division row, clear both, division row after, clear both, content this, display table. Division class colon, okay. 1, 2, 1, 3, and 2, 3. 50, 33, okay.
And then close that last outline, and that'll fix it.
Oh, wait, okay, hold a second. Mm. Because FAQs are part of 1.3, right? Can you go back to your about HTML page? And scroll down. Yep, that's it. No, scroll back up a little bit. Oh, no, that's fine. Oh, yeah, scroll down, down, down. Yep, here. Okay, line number 101. So you have a colon 1.3 and FAQ is part of it. Yep, that's fine. That's how it is supposed to be. Okay, now can you go back to your grids.css? Division colon 1-3. The width is 33.33%, and that's what the FAQs are supposed to only take 33%. And 66% should be the column 2, 3. That's where all the other data gets to be displayed.
I think there needs to be percent signs at the end of the 33.33.
Oh, thank you. 33.33%. You're missing, and the 66.67%.
Yeah, yeah,
Wow.
that'll do it.
Yep. Little things, right? Here we go. Cool. Thank you. Everybody else got it?
Can I just see how your how your like output
Output?
is?
Yeah.
Yeah, the web page.
That's how my output looks like.
Yeah, it doesn't look like mine.
Okay. So should I change mine?
I mean, if you want to, I could tell you what I got, then you can.
Okay. I'm all gonna let you share. Okay. Okay, let's see. Can I see your output first, please?
Yes. It's kind of
It
weird.
kind of like it. Okay. Okay. So okay, it doesn't apply. Can you refresh once again, please?
Yes.
Okay. Now let's go back to your source code and see what's going on here. Okay. So you are clearing both. You have a row after. Okay. Your division class starts with colon, hyphen, float left. Width is 50, width is 33, width is 66.67%.
Oh wait, I think I know what it is. It's what was it again? 2, 3.
Oh
Right.
yeah, it is 2, 3. 1,
Okay.
2, 1, 3, and 2, 3.
Okay, gotcha. Thank you. That should fix everything.
That should fix it. Correct.
Okay.
Yay, there you go. Cool. Okay. Everybody else got it? Okay. This would be a good point to take a break. So let's take a break till 7:40. And then when we come back at 7:40, we'll look at the last piece of this tutorial. Okay. Everybody's back. So we will now move on to our third page here. The third page is completed for you, but because I want to try something different here. So when you run your third page, which is info.html, I want you to open info. I want you to open styles and info.css. And when you look at the output is complete. All you need to do is you scroll down, maybe using a mouse wheel, it scrolls down. It's a completed code, which we will then learn about it piece by piece. So this one also uses reset. And it uses styles 3 and info. Styles 3 pretty much sets up your properties. Like if you start going through your properties, you have an image inside a header, a navigation bar, and then you have a main section, which is called infographic, in which you have all these 9 pictures, or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 pictures or whatever. Yeah. So there are 8 pictures. And this paragraph. which you can see right here, okay? And some of the other pictures have some other paragraphs too. So each picture has a paragraph of text, and each image has a different name because we want to treat them differently. Therefore, the image and the paragraph are packed inside a division, and each division has a different ID. But all divisions have a same class. So the properties that are same are in the info box class, and what are different are in the IDs. So if you start going through the styles 3, you will see up till, I would say, line number 94, everything is very, very similar to the previous pages. But starting from line number 98, you will see that you have a main, which is this main area, in which you have a background color, which is this background color, the golden background color that you got. And then everything is cleared, which was coming from above. And you have an info box set to font size of 0.8 EM. And what is info box? Info box, if you go back, is the class that you gave to each of your child division of the main. So that's the info box. So each info box has a font size of 0.8. Each info box has an image, which is to display block 100%. Now, before I start moving further down here, I want you to comment this last CSS you got so that we can see how the page looks like without that last CSS, the pc_info.css. So comment that one. And then refresh your output, and now you can see all of these info boxes in their original form. So each info box image is a block. That's why nothing else shows up on the same line as the image. It takes up 100% of the width. And each paragraph has a color, has a font size. So you are sort of kind of increasing the font size from 0.8 to 1.2. It has a margin and it has an alignment. Okay. Now, each of the division is different. So the first division, which is ID info 1, it takes 25% of the space. So everything in it only takes 25% of the space. And this is the text color of the paragraph. So that's the text color of the first one, okay, or whatever, that first one, okay. The second one is also 25%. The third one is 20%, so it's slightly smaller, okay. Fourth one is 35%, so it's a little bit bigger, okay. And the fifth one is 40%, sixth one is 45%, and then the seventh one is 25%, and the last one is 45%. And again, you know, we have this problem that we will fix, that this is going out of the container. But this basically, all this guy does, it just gives each one of your info boxes some properties. Now, this is the real page. Before I start uncommenting, what I want you to do is select everything in this page and cut it, like cut it. Don't delete it, cut it. And maybe open a notepad on the side and paste it over there. So we will bring piece of code, like piece by piece, from this notepad in here so that you can see how the output behaves. Okay. So for now, cut out everything, save the changes. So you cut out everything, you save the changes. Then you go back to your HTML page and remove that comment around the last one. And when you refresh, you will see no change because that last CSS file is anyway empty. Okay. Now let's start building this piece by piece. You have the code, but I want to build it piece by piece. For now, I only want to do main. Oops. Main. With a height of 450 pixels and a width of 100%. Only these two properties, and refresh. Okay, you will see a box. The box is 450 pixels high and 100% width. Everybody see that? You got to remember that in your HTML file, you got to uncomment the last CSS, save the changes, and only then you're building this one. So all the pictures are outside of the box. The box is smaller than the items that it can hold. So what we can do is we can tell the box that since you have items more than your size, I want you to overflow. I want you to overflow. So notice what overflow does. It automatically gives your box a scroll bar, and all the items can overflow within the box. Everybody get to see that?
Yeah, I'm not getting the exact thing as yours.
Okay. So are these the only lines you have in PC info?
Yes.
Okay. And also, can you make sure that your HTML file is saved and all the comments are removed from all the links?
Yes.
Okay. And you saved and refresh and you still can't see it?
I say yeah.
Okay, let's have a look at your code then.
Sorry.
Hold on a second. Let me. Okay. Oh, on line number. Oops. On line. Go back to your source code. On line number 19, it should be semicolon after PX. After the PX. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Sorry.
It's okay. Save the changes. Always watch for the colors. Okay. Cool. Got it. Awesome. Okay. Now, after that, remember I asked you to copy everything out? I want you to only bring in this code, the first infographic, display block, top 20 pixels, left 5%. You can copy paste and refresh, and you won't see any difference in the output. And I'll tell you why. Because by default, all items are static. They can't move. Until and unless you bring this piece of code, which is also with you already, you know. So what this piece of code does, when you say position is absolute, you're basically saying this item is movable on the screen. That's called position absolute. It's not fixed. It's not static. So now that it is movable, that's why I want to now move it 20 pixels from the top and 5 pixels from the 5% from the left. So now when you refresh it, everything goes crazy because we still are missing one property. Everything goes crazy because what happens is it thinks that you want to go 20 pixels from the top of the page. So it is 20 pixels down from the top of the page, and it is 5% to the right of the page. So now you need to go down, go up to the main and said, hold on a second. I want everything to be positioned relative to this container. And then refresh after that. You want everything to be positioned relative to this container. So all the absolute positions have to stay within the container. Follow that? Okay. I know they're all stacking on top of each other because I need to move them all around like originally they were when I gave you the code. So if you now, for example, bring in the second one, the second infographic, if you bring that code and paste it, you will see that second infographic moves what? 185 pixels from the top of the container, not from the page, and 42% from the left of the container, not from the page. Similarly, you bring in your third infographic and refresh. Notice this is the third infographics. That is 135 pixels from the top, since it is slightly higher than the second one, because the second one was 185 pixels down, and this is only 135 pixels down. And then it is 75% to the away from the left, so it is farther right. Then you bring in the fourth one, save the changes and refresh. Okay, and now you may have to scroll down. Okay, the fourth one, which is 510 pixels away from the top and 8% to the left. Then you bring in the fifth one. Okay. And likewise, you bring the others, the sixth, the seventh, the eighth, all of them. And then you can see you get what we had in the beginning. So this is all the placements, however you want to place them. But before you start placing, you got to make sure that the first item is, like all the items are set to be absolute. That means they're all movable items. And then the container, they should be movable relative to the container. Otherwise, they will be movable relative to the page. And that's what you don't want to do. Did everybody get this now? If you can please give me a green check in case you got it. Okay. So I'll know who didn't get it. So Jake. Is Jake the only one who didn't get it? Any questions, Jake? You stuck getting a different output? or maybe stepped away too. That could be a possibility. Now there are a couple pages in the book that I want you guys to read. So let me tell you what pages are. So I want you to go to page number 243, clipping an element. I want you to read this page and the next, stacking elements. I want you to read these two topics. That's page 243, right in the chat. HTML 243. Flipping an element. And then stacking elements. And when you're done reading, you can give me a green check. Do these 9 items. Okay. Any questions about 1, 2, and 3?
Yep, so we would have missed the A for the anchor on the nav.
Uh-huh. Okay.
Everything else is good.
Moving on to 4 and 5.
Good there.
Okay. 6, 7, 8, and 9.
Yep, all good.
Cool. Was the activity helpful to review some of the concepts learned?
Oh yeah, especially since we were just talking about them like earlier in the day here, earlier in the class.
Awesome.
Could you scroll to 5 and 4 again?
Yep. So that greater than sign is because it says it's a direct child.
When they're caught up, I want to take another look at 8.
8. Okay. Oh, is everybody done with 4, 5? Okay, we're gonna move on to 8. Got it?
Yep.
Okay. Okay, I will assign you guys another one of these. I have made some changes to your breakout room groups. And this time you will be solving the one on page 246, review session 3.3 quick check. Okay, that's 246.